Welcome to part 2 of exploring Dade County, Missouri. And we are starting in with the ghost town of Crisp, Missouri, where it used to be. And I thought it would be appropriate to start here today because Crisp was named after John Crisp, who is kind of known to be like the first settler in Dade County. And back in the 1820s, which is like 20 years before Dade County became a county. And when you drive all the way up to where Crisp is located, you can't go any farther than where I'm at now. And so you can't actually visit, I think, where the town was. And I'm pretty sure there is no town anymore. On the map, it has a little symbol of maybe where the town was, and then there's a cemetery possibly out there too, but it may not be there either. Probably appropriate to talk about Stockton Lake, and that kind of is part of the reason why nothing's there anymore as well. Stockton Lake was created in the 1970s, and when that was created, it pretty much moved or put underwater towns or settlements that were in its path. And so Crisp had a post office for quite a long time, from 1893 to 1957. And so it's possible there was something there in 1970 when Stockton Lake began. So it's a long way to get out here, down some back roads. And I considered not coming here, but I thought, you know what? This is a great place to start. It's beautiful out here. This is a wildlife area now. You can't take vehicles back through here, but it is really peaceful, beautiful, terrific way to start part 2 of Dade County. So let's head back towards where there's more actual towns and see what we can find. Arcola, small town of 37 people. Don't know how big it used to be. The population figures only go back to about 1970, and there were over 100 people. There's some old buildings like the one behind me that are pretty interesting to look at. And it's on a kind of a busy intersection. 39 is the road that goes through here, and then if you head east, heads towards Stockton Lake, we're gonna head that way next. But yeah, pretty interesting town. It was named after a battle in Italy, and not quite sure if there's some Italian heritage here, but that's where the original name of Arcola came from. That area right there where I was flying the drone on Stockton Lake, there was a town near there, or basically right there, called Seybert, Seybert, and it was established in the 1880s and had a post office for about 30 years, and it was on the Sac River, and so there was a river there, and now the lake kind of is over top all that, and so there was other communities around there as well, but that was one that's actually on my map, and I was right there in that location. And then as I drove down the road, there's an area called Glentown, just south of there, and now I've gone onto some dirt roads heading back west. Cedarville had a post office for 40 years, 1869 to 1909, and I'm getting very far up in the northwest corner of the county. There's not much population. The closest town is Arcola, and that's 37 people, so it's pretty wide open out here. It's really, really pretty. But Cedarville has a few things. There's a church there, and look like a building that has gone out of business, and then the cemetery, which is a bit away from the town. Had to follow some signs to get here and go down some dirt and grass road, but it's a pretty significant cemetery, so obviously the people in this area still have a sense of community. At the intersection where I think the ghost town of Flory was at, it only had a post office for 5 years in the early 1900s. It was said that it was named after a local Missouri politician, but also that there were people in this community with that last name as well. There is nothing left here. There is a little concrete, I guess you could say, bridge with a little area for maybe former creek to flow through, and I don't know how old that is. There was a book written in 1970 that kind of explored around and trying to find all these towns, and in 1970 it said there was nothing left of Flory. So over 50 years ago it looked just like this as well, but we're in the extreme northwest corner of the state. We're only 1 mile from Spartan County to the west, and we're about the same from Cedar County to the north, so way up there. Not much in the way of population in this area of Missouri. When I was driving towards Sylvania, I was expecting to not find anything, kind of like some of these other places, but they actually have a community building that says Sylvania Community Building. Peeked inside, and it looks like maybe it's a voting place, but there's not much in there. So obviously it's for the community in this area. There's really not a lot of towns or anything close, so you got to vote somewhere, and this apparently is where the people in this area vote. There is an older looking building right down the street. It looks like maybe has been turned into somebody's home, but there's not much left. But there is some history to this former town that was only had a post office for a couple decades, long time ago, but it was named Sylvania because it was named after the state of Pennsylvania, kind of a derivative of that, and it was because there was a coal company in this area that was owned by a company in Pennsylvania, so they named it Sylvania. Another interesting historical fact about Sylvania was the school district, and so originally Dade County consolidated schools. When they started doing school consolidations, in the 1950s, they were they decided to consolidate the schools into 4 districts. And Sylvania was way out here, and a couple other areas like that I've been to. There was people living out here, but they were really far away from the nearest one, which was Lockwood, and it was difficult to get to. So originally, they went to Jericho Springs, which is just to the north of us in a different county. And that school closed, and they consolidated with someone even farther north. So once again, Sylvania was left out in the cold. And so they got permission to build their own school. And so from 1954 to 1960, they had their own school here, Sylvania. And then the county said, you know what, we need everyone to go to these 4 schools. And it was there was a lawsuit that involved the people from here. They lost, and the people in this area had to go to Lockwood. So interesting history for a very little community. After a lot of ghost towns where there's nobody there, the next town is Lockwood, which there is a significant population there. If you were watching, videos recently on this channel, you might have seen I did a video recently about Lockwood, and so instead of going back and kind of replaying that, I'm just going to put a link in the description to that video. So if you want to learn about where we're heading next, Lockwood, check that out, and then maybe come back and we'll finish up Dade County. Kings Point is a pretty old town. 1848 was when the post office started, and that lasted till 1909. It seems like 1909 has been a year I've seen multiple times. I don't know if something happened or if there was like everybody decided in the same year to close their post offices. But yeah, there's a church here, a cemetery, obviously, and that's about it. There's a kind of a building being redone. Looks like maybe being kind of refurbished to make modern. I don't know what it is, but this was named after a guy named Samuel King, who owned this land, and named it Kings Point. Pretty cool name for a little town. As you start going through these places and finding nothing in half of them, you kind of get, your expectation gets lowered, and I was expecting to find nothing here in Meinert, and man, what a surprise. This old was maybe a farm supply company in around 1970. It's been open since 1882, and it's really cool how they've obviously restored this, and they've shown all the people that kind of ran the place. And there's other things here too. There's some abandoned homes. There's actually some people that do live here, so there's a community. They even have a water tower. And then across the street, they have a John Deere business over here. So yeah, pretty good surprise here in Meinert. you secretly hope when you're doing these videos to have a good ending, and Dudenville has provided that for me, because a lot of these places don't have much and you just don't know what you're gonna find. But Dudenville has quite a bit. One thing, it's on the county line, so Jasper's right here, Jasper County, Dade County's over here. It's half in one, half in the other. Actually, some of the old buildings from the town, you can tell, are in Jasper County, but some of the abandoned buildings in the cemetery are in Dade County, and that's kind of just, you know, interesting. Has some interesting history too. It was bigger. It was pretty large. It had multiple stores. It had a movie theater. It had a school. So it was quite the community, and there are still people that live here. There's some nicer houses. There were multiple stores that had the post office, and by the way, the post office closed in the year 1900. But there were multiple people that had the post office, and there was political struggles between Republicans and Democrats. Who would have known? And the name of the town would change between Chambersville and Dudenville depending on who was the postmaster and what store the post office was in. And I'm assuming there was a Chambers. I'm not sure. Maybe there was a Dude.
I'm the Dude, so that's what you call me.
And it was named Dudenville. Not quite sure how it got that name. What'd you think of Dade County, Missouri? I tell you, it probably surprised me in a positive way more than I thought. I knew nothing about Dade County, and coming out and exploring every little back road, found quite a bit and really enjoyed my time in Dade County. I'll put on the screen some more post offices that were in Dade County that I was not able to find, or maybe there's not even roads to get to where they used to be, but I'll put those on the screen here. And if anybody knows any more, please put it in the comments. Always like learning about somewhere that I've been, and maybe others will learn as well. So thanks a lot, and until next time, safe travels. Cedarville had a post office for 40 years from the 18... This guy in the head with a bug. Noises. I bet that feels good. I'd come join you if I could. No, just kidding.